Hello, anybody that's listening to this. This is the raw, unedited version of the podcast. I haven't even made connection with my podcast partner. Look at the comment section where I will put the timestamp for when the episode actually starts. So, listen to all this boring ambient sound.
Hey, yo, what's happening, dude?
What up, man? We're already streaming live
Ah, cool. Okay. On Facebook or on your site or what's up?
on YouTube.
Hmm.
Did
Cool.
I do that with Valerian? I think I did that with Valerian, didn't I?
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, I always give people a heads up. I'm like, immediately, just so you know, we're being public. So,
It's a good idea. I really like to air out all my dirty
yeah,
laundry immediately when I got on a Skype call with somebody.
don't say the N word like you usually do. So I figured
Yeah.
I'd cover you for that. All right.
Oof.
Um, you ready to rock?
Yeah. Rock and roll.
All right. Are you recording on your
Dude.
end?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, cool.
I'll start that now. Yeah, I'm recording.
All right. Let's sync it up. 1.
2.
Okay. Welcome to the Watch and Talk. I'm Dylan Shuck.
And I'm Tyler Marchant from the Cynical Cartoons podcast.
In this bonus podcast, we're going to be discussing Annabelle creation, and you can hear all of our previous reviews at thewatchandtalk.com. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters. If you want to be a supporter of the show, you can go to patreon.com/thewatchandtalk. Big shout out to our premium supporters, Shakita, June, Endless Mike, and Kaka. Tyler, have you ever struggled with the social media presence?
Yeah, I don't even really know what that is, but obviously.
But I've struggled. Annabelle is my ex-wife. All right. No, we're good. We're back to go.
Yeah.
I guess I was talking about your YouTube channel. Yeah, we stream our episodes recently on YouTube. So if you look up the Watch and Talk on YouTube, you can join the conversation. And if you hear us respond to something in the chat, it's because somebody's responsible in the chat field that we check in on from time to time during the episode. But I can't just sit there and stare at the chat field while I'm talking. Unfortunately, it's distracting.
I'll do it. I don't know how much I have to say about this movie. Here, I'll go over to your channel right now.
I mean, it's not like we have a big group right now. I didn't make an announcement that we're doing
Right.
a pod or an episode. Anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, it's like a really nice chill week this week. Not a lot going on. I'm getting ready to go down and visit in LA for a couple recordings of Anna Faris's Unqualified, which I work on. So I'm like really fucking psyched about that. It's happening in about a week and a half.
And you haven't you've been to LA before, obviously, right?
No, I
First
was
time
there
to
for a
LA?
trip when I was like, yeah. I haven't even left Washington in like 3 or 4 years, man. Like I am just like sort of a homebody. So I'm excited to, get on down there and actually meet the people I've been working for over a year now.
I think I haven't left California. Well, I was in California, I think 2014 to go to Hawaii. No, I went to Cancun last year. What am I thinking? I went to Cancun last year. So I have left, but it's like for 1 week, and then the rest of the time I'm just in California. But California is a big place, so saying that you haven't left California isn't that strange of a thing because, I went all the way to Sacramento a couple of months ago, and that's like, if I traveled that far in most states, I would have traveled through like 4 states.
Yeah, and there's a lot to do here in Washington. I mean, it's not like I'm like struck for entertainment, but it should be fun to visit down there. The guest on Unqualified, I don't think I'm allowed to say who it is, but like I'm really, really, really excited to meet them and hang out with everybody. So yeah, it should be a fun time.
You gonna party with Anna Faris?
I don't know.
She's recently single.
I've yeah. Oh God, I haven't heard that joke before. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. It's gonna be fun.
All right. Let's kind of get in right into our movie review that we're doing right now. We are discussing Annabelle Creation, correct?
That if that wasn't correct, if you didn't know what movie you were reviewing on your own show today.
So I have to confess, I did not see the first Annabelle.
Okay.
Have you
You're
seen
not
the first
missing
Annabelle?
much. No, I
was
no,
like
I've seen it. I've
it was
seen it.
coming
It was
in.
bad.
It was coming in at 4% Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. And not that I mean, I'm the last person to just write off a movie just because of Rotten Tomatoes, but
Right.
when you're in the single digits, there's something there. I've never seen
It's about a 30, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but that's not much better. It's a very less than middling movie. I would
Also,
say the
bad
comparison
horror is some of the worst.
Yeah.
Bad horror
yeah, and it was very boring
and
lame.
bad comedy. A bad comedy
especially
movie or a
since
bad horror movie is just misery.
Yeah, and especially since it was a spin-off from a film that I really, really loved. Like I've said it before on my show, The Conjuring along with The Evil Dead 2013 were the two movies that got me back into horror after not having watched it in like 10 years. It's a great movie. I hold it very near and dear to my heart. So like seeing it sort of bastardized in Annabelle was a bummer, to say the least. But
I think I even liked Conjuring 2 more than The Conjuring, and that's not a knock on The Conjuring. I just really liked Conjuring 2. I gave it an A-.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's the comparison here. I would say is if you've seen Ouija: Origins of Evil and the original Ouija from 2014, it's about that level of like the original is such shit and the prequel is much better.
It's so weird. We have two movies that the first one was a misery, and the second one was well regarded by critics in general. Like I wouldn't have seen this movie if it didn't have a good Rotten Tomatoes. This is one of those situations where, because Annabelle was so written off, just completely by everyone and everything. I completely agree with you. Evil Dead 2013. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend the first Insidious.
Yeah, I do. I liked the first one. I liked the second one too. I haven't seen the third one because it was just sort of miserable by all accounts. But I like James Wan's catalog. I think that he worked on those as well as The Conjuring, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And he made Dead Silence, which I haven't seen yet either. But I like what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, I did not like the sequels to Insidious, any of them. I didn't hate them, but I just they weren't magical like the first one was. That Darth Maul demon just completely sticks with me. And
that's the composer of the movie. I don't know if you knew about that.
Oh, is that actor that plays him?
Yeah, he's not like an actor. I don't think he's the composer of the movie that did all the music and everything. And I think that they just saw him be like a really tall, gangly, weird looking dude, and they were like, "We should get you in." Or maybe he's an actor as well. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the plot description for this is 12 years after the tragic death of their little girl, a doll maker and his wife welcome a nun and several girls from a shuttered orphanage into their home, soon becoming the target of the doll maker's possessed creation, Annabelle. This is directed by David Sandberg, who directed last year's Lights Out, which was okay.
Oh, okay.
Which was
I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's decent.
Yeah, it was well regarded. I just found it okay. It was based on a short story that was online featured,
which I have seen.
Yeah, which went everywhere. Where like somebody turned the light off and you see a shadowy figure. You're like, what the hell? And they turn the light on and you don't see it, and turn it off and it's closer. Turn it back on and they're like, what? There's nobody there. And it was really creepy. I just think that when they went into mythology of that, it took away some of it. So I have to say, first of all, this movie was really fun to see with a crowd. Was there a lot of people in your theater?
Okay. No, there was me. There was two little old ladies that did react to everything in a very pleasant way, and there was a couple that came into the movie 40 minutes late.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
I
tell
don't
you
know how
this.
people can possibly do that and still enjoy it, but
Toward the
they do what they do.
toward the end of the movie, obviously not gonna say what's gonna happen because we're gonna give a non-spoiler review for the movie, so you haven't seen it, it's safe to listen to, and then a spoiler section at the
Right.
end. There was a really tense scene that's happening at the end, like one of the basically the climax of the movie, and the lights came on in the theater, and we're like, "What
Huh.
the hell is going on?" And then we see a theater guy, like one of the theater workers, just kind of walk up and look at a room full of people, and we're like, "The movie's still on," and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh crap!" And he just kind of turns away, and the whole room just starts laughing because we thought it was a part of like, is this a part of the experience that the theater people turn the light on at this part? Like that's the, which makes me think, why not? Why not do that in a movie sometime? Like, ask the theater attendees to do something like that, or screw with the audience like at a certain cue in a movie to kind of, for me it was really scary. I've never seen a situation where a light came on and I got scared, but it just made you feel like something was weird that was happening. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Anyway, all right. So yeah, why don't you give your basic thoughts on the movie, and I'll give mine, and then we'll kind of switch to spoilers. And
Sure. Like I was saying a little bit ago, I really loved The Conjuring. I also really loved Ouija Origins of Evil, which came out earlier this year. This movie, it feels like it's really trying to hit the beats of The Conjuring more than the first Annabelle did. Like it has all of the same sort of structural things, I guess. Like there's a really creepy old house, that's haunted, and they give you like a one shot of the inside of the house with music playing. To give you the layout of the house. A lot of the characters are a lot of
that
the
was
same
a
kind
big
of like
tracking shot too. That was a nonstop
Mhm.
tracking shot.
Yeah.
And that was so
Yeah.
important to let you know the surroundings, the geography of the house, like you were just saying.
Right, and they do the exact same thing in The Conjuring, except
right.
to better effect there, I would
Right.
say.
That's so important too, because this movie, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but this movie,
Yeah, go ahead.
every single set piece that's used for horror in this movie gets an introduction itself.
Right.
Like every single thing from this motorized chairlift that goes over the stairs, and like a scarecrow that we see, and a toy gun
The
that
well
we see,
and all
the
of those
well,
things.
every single thing,
Yeah.
was completely set up. So so when you see it, you know how it works already. It's not a surprise. You're not wondering why this thing's here. It was really choreographed really well. Maybe almost too well that it almost takes you out of it because it seems so choreographed. But I would rather have something, set up than not set up. So it's not going to be hard for me.
Yeah, it just felt like it was a little bit formulaic to what the franchise is. Like it hits on all of the things, it's a different time period, except that I think that the original 1970s America in The Conjuring really sort of hit like that nostalgia bone, period thing better than all of the other ones did. Like I didn't like the setting of Conjuring 2 as much as the first one. I didn't like the setting here as much as the first Conjuring. But it feels like it does give us a lot of room to work around in when it sets each film in a different geographical location, a different era, sort of,
Right.
And then obviously another staple of the series, having like young girls being scared by inventive monsters. I mean, it does a lot of stuff a lot better than the first Annabelle, obviously.
Well, I mean, I can't.
Yeah, you shouldn't watch it. I mean, it also it feels like Origins of Evil in so many ways. Like the ending even of I mean we're not going to talk about it, but like there's just a lot of things that feel a lot like Ouija Origins, and it feels like somebody saw that movie and they were like, "Oh, that's how we should continue this Annabelle thing," because the first one did turn a huge profit, I think.
Uh-huh.
Even though it wasn't very widely regarded.
Yep.
Does it feel to you like to me it felt like this franchise kind of has like a Spider-Man problem to it, where like there's just too many elements going on at once. There's like too many ghosts that they just throw at you all at once and sort of expect you to like, I don't know, the convergent plot lines, I guess.
They are feeling responsible to tie together so much things from The Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't get why they're so obsessed with Annabelle in general. Like why like Annabelle was so focused on in The Conjuring, and then to get, I mean, not so focused, but as a side plot, right? And then to get a movie and its sequel that they found so important. And it's funny that The Conjuring is now kind of starting to have an expanded universe. Like there's a shot in one of this as the nun that it was spoke of in this. There's a shot of her and
Right,
an
Sister
old,
Charlotte.
yeah. There's a shot of her and an old missionary, and the nun from The Conjuring 2 is seen in the picture with her, and that doesn't really come into play anything else other than kind of tying them together.
Right, and I haven't seen Conjuring 2 since it came out, so I had no idea what that was, and I was like, I guess that'll just come up later, and it never really did.
Right.
But I mean, if somebody tasked you, if somebody at Warner Brothers tasked you with watching The Conjuring and saying, how would you spin this off? You would obviously pick Annabelle as the thing. Like Annabelle, like the idea of like a possessed doll that's possessed with the, soul of this demon that pretends to be a little girl, like that's a lot more interesting than the mother that drowned all of her kids in the first movie. There's nothing else that you can really latch onto that would be interesting on its own franchise.
Okay. Yeah. What's your letter grade?
Oh, I liked the performances. I liked the scares. I felt like it was a little bit formulaic at times. I would give this like a B minus.
Yeah. So it's funny, like you said on Twitter. I saw you say the actual Annabelle creation part.
Oh, right. It takes place in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, in
We
like the
see him
first 30
making the
seconds.
doll.
Right. And what happens is also in the trailer. When we see the very very beginning, we see a little girl get hit by a car, which is shocking.
Right.
Um, so okay, so I don't know if I loved this movie. I definitely didn't hate this movie, but just like I tell with any movie that I want to see, I go to movies to feel something, right? So when I hear somebody say they don't like horror, I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you shutting yourself off from a genre of movie? Because I look at it as a freaking roller coaster.
Right.
And if I go to a movie and I'm going, oh my god, like this is what I'm always saying when I know I'm being scared in a horror movie. Why am I doing this? Why am I watching this right now? Why am I doing this to myself? Why did I do this? Oh my god, I wish I didn't do this. I wish I didn't do this. Which is really kind of being said in jest because I know I'm glad I'm there. I know why I'm doing it, but that means it's working. That means I'm unsettled. And a
Right.
lot of movies will have horror and then some reprieve in the middle, some calm in the middle, and then more horror, and then some calm, and then some horror. And this movie did that very formulaically for a while. But it hits a certain point in this movie where there's no more calm. Like the movie is hitting you over and over again, relentlessly, nonstop, and you cannot get a chance to relax and let your guard down and breathe for a while. And as somebody that literally squirms in my chair, I literally squirm in my chair when I'm being freaked out. I did a lot of squirming in this. So for that reason, this movie didn't feel in any way, shape, or form. But when I left it, I wasn't like that was a really good movie that I can't wait to rewatch. Like I thought after Insidious, which I've seen many, many times, or Evil Dead 2, or
Right.
even Conjuring 2.
I felt that way about Ouija as well. I know I keep coming back to Ouija or Origins of Evil, but I just loved the tone of the movie, the characters, the monsters, all of it was so good.
Right.
And I didn't feel that way about this either.
I thought there was a terrifying monster. And we'll talk
Yeah.
about that. We'll talk about that when we get to.
Well, and I also feel like maybe you get desensitized to it after a while. I don't know if you felt that way, but definitely having it try and stay on a high for so long, I was sort of bored at a certain point. I was sort of like, that's what I meant by formulaic. It felt like it was sort of going through the motions of a horror movie, even though it was doing it in a very artful way.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think I was bored during this movie a little bit, even though it was kind of relentless. At a part, that's where I was not bored, but before that, I was pretty freaked out. There's also a lot of why they're not screaming for help, why they're going by themselves to do things in this movie that's happening. That is kind of detracting. I do think if you're going to see this movie, you need to see it in the theater for surround sound because the surround sound is crucial for this. you can hear sounds from coming from behind you
Yeah,
constantly.
on the why are they doing certain things? Like there's a certain point in the movie where they obviously know that something screwed up is going on here and they could just sort of like leave and they just don't, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there is an adult in this situation who seems wise-ish, like she should know to get out of here with all these young girls
I
that
have
are probably going to be murdered,
I
but
have a
like,
response
you
to that.
know,
There's a
yeah.
regular why don't they leave this house feeling that you think mostly in a haunted house movie. But this
Hmm.
was really explained because these girls are orphans and they have no other place to go, and this nun has brought them to this house because the family donated their house to let the orphans come live in. So when they go to the adult hasn't experienced anything, right? And they explain this to her, and she says, "I'm sorry, you're crazy, but there's no other place for us to go. There's
Mm.
no, and especially there's no place for the two main characters to be able to still be friends, to be able to still hang
Yeah.
out."
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it made a little more sense as far as that goes for the most.
What did you think of their performances of the two main girls, the one with polio and the one from Ouija?
That was the one from Ouija, wasn't it? I knew I
Yeah, that was
recognized her.
Woo Woo Wilson. She was good in
Right?
Ouija.
Yeah,
She was okay in this.
I didn't think she was very good. The other girl I thought was
The
fantastic.
the
The one
girl
with
with
polio was
polio, yeah,
fantastic. Fantastic.
yeah, she was really good. There's a thing that I realized in the middle of the movie with a polio subplot in a film set in the 50s is after Forrest Gump, I can like never take it seriously again. I'm just gonna imagine like this little girl running out of her, leg brace and just laugh at that in the middle of of this very serious moment. It's just like I don't know. I think that the world is sort of disconnected from that at this point. That the only thing that we'll think of is that time that we saw it in a movie or that time that we saw a joke about it in The Simpsons or something.
Yeah. Well,
It doesn't feel like a very serious disease anymore, even though it obviously was.
yeah, they captured it pretty seriously in this, and her insecurity about it and everything was. I
Right.
thought that was pretty well fleshed out. Also, the Mrs. Mullins, the ladies whose house they're at. It's the family is the Mullins. The
Right.
Samuel Mullins is played by Anthony LaPaglia from a lot of things, but a lot of people I most recognize him from Empire Records. Um, but the wife is played by Miranda Otto, who was in Homeland, and she was recently on 24 Legacy, which was abysmally terrible, but it wasn't her fault in any way, shape, or form. But I thought she did a pretty decent job in this. Figuring we don't see much of her, to be honest.
Right.
There's also really good, really great camera work in this movie in general. There's a scene where they go into the room that Annabelle's being kept, and we see an upside down cross over in the corner.
Right.
And the camera zooms in on it. While it's zooming, the camera spins around to make the cross right side up. It was just a pretty cool way to do it. And then you're looking at the cross upside down, which makes the cross appear right side up. But there's really, I mean, most of the chilling scenes, I guess we'll talk about when we get. But I'm pretty much right there with you. I'm honestly, I'm between a C plus and a B minus. Do I want to watch this again? No, not really, to be honest.
Right. But there's nothing really wrong with it
Right.
that you would want to
Right.
dock it for.
Yeah. So I'm usually my rule is if I'm between two and I'm not excited to see it again, I usually will give it the lower score. If I want to see it again, I'll give it the higher score. But there's nothing wrong with this movie necessarily. There's definitely nothing glaringly wrong in this. It just isn't. It just isn't a fantastic as a movie. But the horror, I can't knock it. The horror was freaking great. I got completely freaked out. If that's something you're looking for, like most people are with horror movies, absolutely go see this. And I suggest, honestly, seeing it in the theater, if anything, for the surround sound. And
Well,
if you
and
can
it's
see it with a full theater, do it because it's a fun, interactive crowd with just everyone be like, no, no, oh my God. And then just
right.
a ton of laughing. Like, it's the only time that other people are being loud in the theater and you don't mind.
Well, and it's also one of the only good horror movies that we've gotten this year so far, right? We got Get Out earlier this year, which was fantastic. We
Yep.
got like
Rings.
I don't even know what else. Yeah, but people didn't like that one. I haven't seen it
it
yet.
was
I mean,
really bad. It was
yeah, Yeah.
very bad. Like it
And like
was.
people didn't like Alien Covenant. People maybe did or didn't like the Bye Bye Man. This is like the one aside from Get Out this year that I would say is like unequivocally like good, well made and well structured. And the stuff that's coming up in the next month or two just looks so trashy. Like I've seen that Flatlanders trailer like 100 times and I laugh at it because it's so bad. Like,
It looks really
did you see
awful.
the trailer for Friend Request?
Yes.
It looks so fucking stupid, and
Mhm.
I'm definitely gonna see it. It looks ridiculous, and like that weird Groundhog Day one. Like, there's a lot of schlocky stuff coming up, and then which may or may not be good. So I would say this one's a good contender for like a nice like Halloween movie if it's still out at the end of next month or at the
Frankly,
end of
if you like
October, which it won't be.
horror, this movie's worth seeing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree with that.
It's not going to be a completely memorable for the banks, but it's not unoriginal. It's not completely original, but it's not unoriginal. So it's worth seeing.
If you haven't
The
seen,
original Annabelle should have been this movie, to be honest.
yeah, that's how I felt about Ouija too. Like, if you haven't seen The Conjuring, definitely see that first. If you haven't seen The Conjuring 2, see that one first. And then if you're really into the franchise and you want to see more in that sort of universe, yeah, check out Annabelle Creation. It was fun enough.
Just in case we lose some people, where can people?
Yeah, I am at Future Horse Pod on Twitter, and you can check out my podcast, the Cynical Cartoons Podcast, Unfortunate Associates, and Tainami. And yeah, that's about it.
For me, you can follow me at Shuckster. That's SCHUCKSTR. For the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk. Email us at thewatchandtalk@gmail.com. Go to our website, thewatchandtalk.com. Our Instagram at The Watch and Talk, and our Facebook at facebook.com/The Watch and Talk. Next week, we're going to be reviewing Logan Lucky. And if without further ado, let's switch to spoilers. Okay, so when she turned around, when she said, when she saw the little girl, and she was like, "What can I do? Like, what can I help? Or what can I like get you?" And she
Mhm.
just turns around and says, "Your soul." That was pretty fantastic, and that was really freaky. And then you see her hand mutating, all freaky. That was pretty fantastic. The demon in general was pretty gnarly, if you ask me.
Yeah, there were some fun jump scares in this movie, and not like lame cheesy ones
Right.
either. Like, it didn't feel like it was being cheap most of the time. The thing that I
There
almost
were a
let drop,
couple false jump scares where somebody comes up
right,
and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like,
right.
and then they're like, "Oh, you scared me." But you know,
The
every
the thing that I almost let slip earlier before I caught myself and held it off for spoilers is that it's kind of the exact same ending as Ouija Origins of Evil. Like, you have the character that got away or that lived and you thought was okay, and then we see them like transition and we see them age into another character from the sequel movie that we didn't know was the character that we were looking at. In Ouija, it was um
yeah, that didn't make
the
sense to me. That didn't make sense to me. But I heard somebody in the theater say that was the beginning of the last Annabelle.
right. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And like, I don't like that. I think that like Ouija Origins of Evil is so much better than the first one that it should be allowed to stand on its own and not be attached to that other piece of shit. And the same here. I think that this is so much better that I don't want to think about Annabelle when this movie's wrapping up.
That girl was pretty fantastic though, and it's interesting, I guess, that she ended up being um, I guess the bad guy in Annabelle.
Yeah. It
Is it?
happens about the half point of the movie. I think that was an interesting twist
It
enough.
was also interesting too that she got attacked in broad daylight when we felt really safe. Like
Hmm.
for the most part, this movie had only had bad stuff happen at nighttime, and daytime we were pretty safe. And in the middle of the day, she gets attacked in broad daylight. Her wheelchair, which also was scary, the wheelchair that she couldn't, that somebody else was control of her when she was in that wheelchair. And then it dragged her into the shed,
Right.
and the shed closed. Then it immediately puked in her mouth. And yeah, that was it.
Very
For
Evil Dead feeling. That
Yes.
whole like pushing her on the ground and throwing up in her mouth while holding her down.
Very Sam Raimi.
Hmm.
Same thing with Drag Me to Hell. That's the whole movie. Drag Me to Hell is like that stuff.
Yeah. That moment where she starts getting pushed around in her wheelchair made me just think of Mac and Me the entire time. I don't know if you've seen
No.
the infamous wheelchair scene where the kid is pushed down a hill and then saved by his alien friend. It's very good.
Okay, so when
Um,
she first went and saw Annabelle, and then she like she threw the sheet over her head.
Right,
and
right.
then the sheet just starts walking at her. So freaky. The whole theater went nuts when that was happening. There was a lot of squirming around at that. I think this movie's probably ranking in a lot of money because that theater was full in the morning. So,
Yeah.
also when Mr. Mullins holding the cross at her, and his fingers start breaking one by one,
Hmm.
when she starts
That's a good moment.
twisting back the fingers, it was pretty gnarly. You don't see a lot like that, to be
It
honest. So.
Yeah, I liked the polio subplot in the way that it reminded me of like 1970s horror exploitation films. Like it felt very like Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me, where they get like a kid in a wheelchair and they make him run away from a giant 7-foot man with a chainsaw. You know, it felt like that, like this little girl with polio and like a leg brace and crutches having to like hobble away from a demon or a doll that's chasing her. You know, felt very like exploitation film. And I liked that take. You don't see that very often nowadays.
But Ouija also took away her, obviously, like you said, her ability to get away. But the creature, the demon, whatever you call it, the devil, can control inanimate objects. So that, like I said, it's unfortunate that she's no longer able to control where she goes now. Because you remember that kaleidoscope
Yeah,
scene that she looked through a kaleidoscope.
yeah, that felt like a real Chekhov's gun. Like they were setting something up that never really paid
Right, I
off,
took a
right?
note of it, assuming it was going to come into later. Just like everything, I was taking note of.
Mhm.
The stair, I was like, obviously, it's going to come in handy, and especially when he said, "And it won't work without the seatbelt." But then when she sits down and
Right.
it's not working, you're sitting there going, "The seatbelt, the seatbelt!"
Yeah,
Like I'm sitting there yelling at the seat, not really out loud yelling, but in my head I was yelling, "Put your damn
right.
click the seatbelt together." And
Well, and there were a
the
few
well,
things that it felt
obviously.
like. Yeah, there were a few things that it felt like it sort of dropped the ball on that it could have sort of capitalized on. Like there was the entire movie. The point of it is that they're orphans and that they can't get adopted for whatever reason, just because of the times or because one of them has polio or because they refuse to go without their friend or whatever. So I expected there to be a scene where these little girls, they know that this house is haunted, they want to get the fuck out of there, and then somebody comes to maybe adopt one of them and they have to like try and manipulate their way into being adopted. And I really expected that scene to happen in the movie, and there's just like no really the
Yeah,
fact that they're
I
all
think the setup was
up for
just how
adoption.
close they were and how much
Yeah.
they had each other's back. But I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. It seemed like it was going to go in a different direction.
Yeah, I feel like they could have played with that a little bit more. And it's sort of the fact that they were all orphans was sort of non-consequential, actually.
Right. No, I mean I don't think it was non-consequential. It showed that the reason they couldn't leave the house, why they had to stay there.
Right.
The scarecrow, I was like, come on, fuck this, come on, oh my god, I don't need to see this creepy ass scarecrow. And they're stuck in, of course,
I liked that. That was fun.
of course, the car's not starting.
Hmm.
Right, and it's funny when the girls are sitting there and they're like making fun of Mrs. Mullins under the sheet, and all of a sudden they get approached by what looks like an crooked old lady, and they take they way too late to take the sheet off. When it was ringing
Yeah,
that
I
bell,
thought
I was like, "Take the damn sheet off
obviously,
your head, you."
yeah, obviously they were setting something up there with the girls talking about the ghost that says your name until you look at it and then it attacks you. And I thought that would have been interesting a route to go down, but it's another like sort of setting up ideas and then not paying them off for whatever reason. Like it felt like in The Conjuring, there are ghosts that like mimic what you're doing. You know, they see them playing the clap clap game and they do the clap clap thing with the mom. And so I thought that that was going to come into play here, where there was one that said your name until you looked at it and then it attacked you, but that just didn't happen.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I again, I can't stress enough how creepy the demon working for me, and I really love those unnatural movements. Like again, when you see that hand mutating after it says your soul, and also the scenes with the doll where like they remember when she shot the doll and hit it and with the little gun,
Uh huh.
and everybody in the crowd was like, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You should not have done that." But it's also funny when they turn away and they look back at the doll and the doll's head is moved looking at them. That kind of stuff I think was really
Yeah, I think that these little girls just need to learn how to stop playing around with demons. Like they did it in The Conjuring, they did it here. You know, if you see a demon, don't like play patty cake with it or like play with this stupid little mirror that it tells you to
hold on,
play with. Just
hold on,
like,
I'm taking that. If you
all
see a
right,
demon,
Yeah.
Don't try to play with it. All right, just needed to make that. I need to make sure to follow this advice. I don't want to forget.
Yeah.
Anything else, or are we ready to? I think you said it best. There's not too much to discuss in this.
Yeah, there's not much else.
Yeah. Why don't you tell people again where they can follow you?
Yeah, I am at Future Horse Pod on Twitter, or you can check out my show, Cynical Cartoons, Tainami, and Unfortunate Associates. Tainami is an anime podcast. Cynical Cartoons is about animation in general, and Unfortunate Associates is about a series of unfortunate events. And I think that we are still the top A series of unfortunate events podcast. I'm excited for season 2.
That's going to be on your tombstone.
Yeah,
the top.
I'll get tattoos.
I have the top 24 podcast, a show that's been off the air for the past 7 years. So,
Ooh,
no, but we did a 24 Legacy, which is what I discussed earlier, which was just miserable. Still the top. We were
right.
top on that, but again, watching that show was misery in it.
That had the guy from The Flash, right? I don't know if you watched The Flash, but I think one of the guys from Flash left the show to work on 24 Legacy. He's like the big, tall, blonde dude.
It got canceled, and it's very understandable why. Because anyway, for me, you can follow me at Shuckster. That's SCHUCKSTR. And me saying that's bad says something, because 24 is my favorite show of all time. But yeah, and hey, if you like 24 too, and you haven't heard me talk about it, we're doing a rewatch podcast. We're in the middle of season 5, which is the best season. So it's all downhill from here. Yeah, so for the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk. Email us at thewatchtalk@gmail.com. You can go to our website, thewatchandtalk.com, or you can go to our Facebook, facebook.com/thewatchandtalk, or Instagram at Watch and Talk. And that's it. I'm Dylan Chuck.
I'm Tao Marchand.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
All right.
Stop my recording.